Mommy's trying to work. So first things first, sorry, I 1000%, like 1000% planned to film this on Saturday and upload it Sunday. But the thing is that I went out for Halloween this year. I went out for Halloween for like the first time in 4 years, and it was lit, but it was a little too lit. My homegirls were like, we can't leave the club with these drinks. I was like, not a problem. And it was a problem. And the last thing I remember was a handsome man in a cowboy hat helping my homegirls carry me across West Hollywood in the name of friendship. So the next morning I woke up and it hurt to have eyelids. I didn't have enough electrolytes to blink properly, let alone film content. But I'm here now. I gave you options, probably shouldn't have, and you guys chose Acotar. And I feel like I'm allowed to say that because if you will notice here, hold on, let me just, I have all the original edition covers of Throne of Glass, just like I have the original edition covers of Acotar. Now, I don't have the first one because the first one was terrible and I let my friend borrow it and she never gave it back, so we're not friends anymore, but I digress. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and talk to you about Acotar. If you want a romance series where the plot is kind of, it's just there, it's just propping up the romance, sure. Acotar is a decent series. If you want a romantasy where the plot is just as important as the romance, let's just say like the more that critical thinking is important to you, the harder time you're gonna have liking this book. So what am I going to be rating these books on when I start yodeling on the internet? Well, we're gonna look at characters and character development. We're gonna look at plot logistics and whether or not anything that's happening actually makes sense or just serves as a backboard to prop up the romance. And then we're gonna look at the most important criteria to me. Is the book able to be what it's trying to be, or is it swinging and missing? I've read some pretty terrible books that are just terrible for a whole host of reasons, and I'm sure I'll review them at one point or another. But I will be first in line for the sequel. Why? Because they're not trying to be fantastic books. They know that they're not that serious, and they don't take themselves that seriously, and that's part of the magic of those books. So I'm gonna let you know when it's time to skedaddle, if you don't want spoilers. But before we get to that, I'm just gonna give you a brief summary, and if you have a beverage, now would be the time. First things first, it starts off with a bitch that can't read. So things are looking pretty bleak from the get-go. Sad, sad wretch of a girl who is out in the winter forests hunting for deer because her mother died and her dad sucks and her sisters are evil and lazy. So she stumbles across this wolf lion thing. Is he a wolf in the first one? Child. She comes across this fairy who's in some kind of animal form. He's like, girlfriend? She's like, ew. He's like, I will eat your family. She's like, all right. 80% of the first book is her like, oh, I hate him, but he makes me wear all these gorgeous dresses. And then all of a sudden in the third act, shit gets crazy. There's this handsome man who wants to whisk her away to the night court. There's this bizarre fae woman who wants to eat everybody involved, and there's like a giant worm in a cave or something. Listen. You could Google the first book, to be honest. That's all I'm gonna say for individuals that want a brief summary. It's a good romance until it's not. So this, my children, is chapter 55. Iconic. She meets this handsome man in book 1 who's like, look, I think you're pretty saucy, and I also hate your boyfriend, and I kind of hate this fairy lady, and I don't know why, but I'm gonna help you and you're gonna help me later down the line. And she's like, yeah. And so he helps her win these challenges. He helps her free Tamlin, free herself, yada yada yada. Book 2. So him being the patient, understanding, practical man that he is, he crashes her wedding, whisks her away, and is like, so you're gonna have to come back, like every couple weeks. Sorry. And she's like, oh god, not another multi-million-dollar palace. You spend the entire book wondering why this supposed villain is so nice to her, even though she keeps throwing shoes and begrudgingly learning how to read and write. And Tamlin is just stressed, and at one point he like flips out on her, blows up in his study, and everyone's like, she could have gotten hurt in that study, and I'm like, people are already hurt, but that's just me being terrible. And so she calls her second boyfriend, because her first boyfriend is kind of getting on her nerves, and she's like, She starts hanging out with Rhysand more than she hangs out with Tamlin, and she tells us that it's because she feels freer, right? She feels stronger in Rhysand's presence. You know, Tamlin's too protective. Rhysand, on the other hand, will throw her into a fucking cottage with a mythological creature that will whoop her ass, and he will listen to her getting her ass beat from a tree outside in the woods, but that's because she's a strong, independent woman. 5 million chapters later, it comes out that Rhysand was her mate the whole time. Listen, as much as I like to rag on this series, I will never forget the first time that I read chapter 55. Something about this that I was like... He confesses that Feyre is his mate and has been his mate this whole time, like since book 1, and all of us were clutching our pearls and we're like, Tim Tam has been colluding with an evil king because Feyre, who I will remind you can't fucking read, wrote him a letter. It was a Dear John letter, and she was like, this isn't working out, sorry. And naturally he was like, bitch can't read, this is fake, it's fraudulent. Oh my god, Tim Tam betrayed us, and he's like, bitch, I thought you couldn't read. Feyre's like, shit, we are in some deep shit. What do I do? And so she's like, the spell is broken. You were right all along. I was under a curse. He was cursing me. Take me home. Feyre goes home with Tim Tam after it's revealed that she's the High Lady of the Night Court. Now, does being a High Lady mean anything in the grand arc of the series? Absolutely not. Does she do anything of value given the things that she supposedly cares about? Absolutely not. She's got on her Ugg boots though, and she's decorating her mansion, so you best believe that she's politicking it up. Next we have A Court of Wings and Ruin, which is the saddest attempt at a girl boss I have ever read, except for Silver Elite. I didn't make it 5 pages through Silver Elite, but that's a different video for a different day. This is when things started to fall apart for me. Let me tell you why. Feyre is now acting like an inside spy at the Spring Court, right? So she goes back to her ex-boyfriend, whom she's now enemies with, but he doesn't know they're enemies because she doesn't communicate like an adult. A bunch of people in the Spring Court die because of her and her actions. Tim Tam is this close to drinking bleach. I forgot to mention that in A Court of Mist and Fury, Feyre decides it's a great idea to introduce her human sisters to her fairy boyfriend and his fairy best friends. And out of nowhere, Feyre's like, girl brunch, like, and expects everybody to get along. Elaine and Nesta get thrown into the cauldron. Now, what is the cauldron? Well, the cauldron is like basically this giant noodle pot, right? Anything you toss in that joint, it'll come out magical. And this evil king is trying to convince these human queens, like, hey, we've got this magic noodle pot. And they're like, but does it work? And he's like, do you want to see? And they toss the sisters in the noodle pot. And the sisters come out fey, which they did not ask for. And then there's also like this huge big battle, which I think is kind of terrible because the power that Rhys displays is never again seen in the entire series. Amryn dies, should have stayed dead, but of course she doesn't stay dead. Rhys dies, should have stayed dead, but of course he doesn't stay dead. So by the time this book ends, you realize that there's like little to no stakes in this entire series. I think at one point Cassian's insides are outside. Like, it's all of a sudden Papa Archeron has a will to live again and like assembles a small army. I don't even remember how it ends. I'm not gonna lie. I got there and I was like, all right, this is enough. I can't take this anymore. Now, there is a book between A Court of Wings and Ruin and A Court of Silver Flames. It's called A Court of Frost and Starlight. Did I read it? No, because at this point, I'm sick of all these fuck-ass courts. I cannot keep track of every single one, and their aesthetics. You couldn't pay me to name more than 4. Some of the girlies are gonna hate me for this, and that's fine, because I love to fight. I think Nesta is one of the best written characters in this entire series. Do I appreciate how she's utilized? Not at all, because the author is not very good at writing powerful women and letting them retain their power. But do I like her as a character and her potential as a character? Absolutely. Here's the tea on Nesta, okay? If Feyre's response to them being thrust into poverty was playing Bear Grylls out in the woods and deciding she was gonna learn how to skin a deer, Nesta was like, this is the man of the house, and I swear to God, I will starve. We will all starve and die before I pick up his slack. Nesta, who does not fuck with the outdoors, went outdoors for weeks when Feyre ran off with this dusty-ass wolf fairy and waited for her. Was looking for her sister for weeks. I want you to think of the worst boyfriend your little sister has ever had. She brings him home and he's got the audacity to tell you that you weren't doing things right. By the time we got here, I was sick of Rhysand. I was sick of all of them. I didn't even like Cassian that much, and I love Cassian. Nesta gets thrown into the noodle pot, and the noodle pot is like, God above and below, what did you just put inside of me? As soon as Nesta gets inside the cauldron is stressed, and that's how I knew Nesta was a bad bitch. Because what do you mean that she scared the most powerful magical object in all of Prythian and beyond? Rhysand is a character that makes controlling men seem sexy, and he is sexy until he meets a woman that has no interest in being controlled. Nesta hates him because Nesta's response to her trauma is being uncontrollable. Nesta's response to her trauma is agency, even if it's the agency to self-destruct. Rhysand responds to his trauma by controlling everything and everyone around him, and typically everything and everyone around him is keen to let him do that, except for her. We get to A Court of Silver Flames, and A Court of Frost and Starlight, basically everyone's been spiraling and stressed out, and by the time we get to Silver Flames, Nesta is going through it. She's drinking all the time, she's dancing all the time, Cassian always has to go pick her up from the club. I'm gonna spend it all and do whatever I want, and if you're gonna trap me here, I'm gonna make you suffer for it and regret every single second. She's not even very antagonistic, she just wants to enjoy her self-loathing in peace. And can they let her? No. I don't even think the author likes Nesta that much. Because if you look at Nesta's mating bond with Cassian compared to Feyre's compared to every other mating bond in the series, they hate each other. Nesta's character has the unfortunate fate of following this trajectory that the author does with so many of her female characters that are extremely powerful. Nesta is so powerful after she gets thrown into that noodle pot that Rhys gets one glimpse into her mind during a nightmare and he's like, you mean to tell me that my power is so devastating the High Lord of the Night Court is quaking in his boots? And does she get to keep any of that power? No! 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 She gives this power up for a hoe-ass baby that nobody ask for, that is somehow gonna kill Feyre, even though Feyre's a shapeshifter, even though Cassian had his insides put back inside his body. We don't know how to perform a C-section, so Feyre might die, and in the middle of her childbirth, Nesta has never died. Oh my god, I hate it so much. I think I made it 2 chapters in A Crescent City and I was like, I can't do this. I don't care if they're in it later, like I can't. I googled, apparently Nesta is still getting treated like crap. If you do hate Nesta, tell me why you hate Nesta, cause I'll read it, I'll think about it. I'll engage in the conversation. If you love Nesta, tell me why, so we can fangirl about her. So characters and character development, they get a 3 out of 5. Nesta gets a 5 out of 5. Plot consistency, 2 out of 5. 2.5 out of 5. Not 2, 2.5 out of 5. Because is it great? No. Is it terrible? No. Acotar is trying desperately to be a intricate, deep, complex, high fantasy, and it just misses way too many marks, in my opinion, to be that. So I would say it gets like a 1 out of 5 on that. If it was just like a smutty, fun romantasy, then so be it. But the more you try to think critically about everything that's going on, and at some point, Farrah's like, God, I really know I shouldn't call him, but like... Atlas, what are you eating? Decided to bring them over here to our table. Now we're involved with them, and now the King of Hybrid knows who the fuck I am because you're fucking around in fairyland. What are you? God, what are you eating? Oh God, I hate it here with all of these servants and natural lighting from across the palace. Probably from across the palace grounds. He can hear you fart. Like, I just... He's like... Come on over, sweet cheeks. Oh, there's nothing under there. Nothing. I'm gonna lift the carpet. We're gonna see that it's nothing. Okay, it's a mess. You're gonna be upset. I'm gonna waste battery. We're gonna be in the poorhouse because we can't hold down a real job. Resand. Oh, I hate him, but look at this palace. God, is that really all I have left? Mess. So, there's no way. Walking down the aisle, she's like, please, God, send me a handsome man with a bigger... How many times we have to read about Farrah and her watery bowels, and you mean to tell me that not once was Tim Tam like... Maybe some Tums. It was a problem of great proportion. What is this? There is no way. Now, I'm not being a hater. Oh my God, wait. But I'm here to hate. Am I crooked though? You're on a stack of books again. Am I in focus? Handsome. Look at that. 10 out of 10 chunk. We do this every time. This is just part of the... How long do I gotta wait for you to... Oh! Hey! There we are!